Okay, so let's get into the big episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're gonna split each deck up, so you'll get some different videos for each deck. But if you're listening audio wise, this is just gonna be one big long show. So we'll try and include some like timestamps in the notes in case you want to skip right to a deck. I'll keep track of that and include that. So, but the order that we're going to go in, just to let everyone know off the top here, we're going to go Sultai, Jeskai, Naya, and then Rakdos. And then we're going to hit some general reprints that are in various decks. So we're going to talk about all the new cards first, and then we'll hit some reprints. So if that's just purely for the audio listeners, because obviously you'll just hit those individual videos on YouTube. So let's get into it. Let's start chatting right away with the Faceless Menace deck, which is the Sultai base deck, black, green, and blue. Obviously, we got some very cool legendaries leading up this pack. Sean, the like front of the box is Kadenazz?
Yes.
Is that right? Kadenazz, Slinking Sorcerer, 1 black, green, blue. So 4 mana for a 3/3 Naga Wizard, legendary. The first, and this is the morph deck, right? So we're all talking about face down creatures. We're talking about unmorphing them, all that kind of stuff. So Kadenazz says the first face down creature spell you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast, which means, of course, it's free.
Yeah.
So you just get the free slap down a morph. And then whenever a face down creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Well, I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
Right? There's never been a better morph commander than Kadenazz Slinking Sorcerer.
It's perfect. You're going to spend the card replaces itself, and you have your full complement of mana to unmorph other things, cast other spells. It's like you're just getting a free morph every turn, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. Right. I love it. It doesn't seem like, I do think the potential is there to break this, but in more of a fun way. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't strike me as like, oh, this is too powerful. It's pretty powerful, I think, but the morphs themselves temper the power level, I think, right? And
yes.
And so therefore I'm kind of like, yeah, no, this is cool. This is good. I think it's a good thing.
There are no brutal morphs that would that are involved in infinite combos very easily that I know of. It's just good value. That's a great commander.
I mean, maybe now some of the new ones, perhaps. I don't think so though. But either way, I love Kadenazz, Slinking Sorcerer. This is great. And so this is the first one we're talking about. I just want to say right off the top of the show here, and in the first of our videos, I think they nailed it, and I think they've progressively been nailing commanders better and better over the last few years. I'd say starting with Dominaria, I think that the Wizards R&D and all the folks out there making the cards, I think they're getting better and better, and they're, like I said, they're absolutely nailing it. Like the M20 legends and these legends that they've printed in this set are just like perfect, right? Like they're not too powerful. They're not just some like dumb thing where it's like, here's the commander that does everything. It's like, no, it does like a cool thing that helps the deck, but it's not like, it's not like without this commander the deck doesn't work or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
designed very well, and I just want to say, great job, and let's carry on with the
Wizards thinks.
Hashtag Wizards thinks.
I love it. Kadenazz great. I'm happy for it. I don't know what else we would do outside of a morph deck. I don't have any inspiration that way, but for a morph commander, this is the best you're going to ever get.
Yeah, it's all face down creatures, and the only thing that does that is morph and manifest. So yeah.
So next up is Ryami, Fist of the Fallen. Same cost. First. I'm sorry. Sorry, Ryami. 1 black, green, blue. Obviously, Sultai, legendary vampire.
We'll talk about that in a sec.
Okay, it's 5/4. If a non-token creature would die, exile that card with a blood counter on it instead. So this now means nothing goes to the graveyard. No tokens go to the graveyard, so this is graveyard hate. As long as an exiled creature card with a blood counter on it has flying, Ryami has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Protection, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Notably lacking is Skulk,
Yeah. Andrek is like, where's Skulk?
But
Yeah.
but protection is on there.
Yes. Yeah. So any type of protection gets yeah, that's interesting. I
Yeah.
agree.
So I mean, it works on your opponent's creatures too. So you're picking up those abilities. That's kind of cool. This is a nice like keyword soup commander. I think that's really fun. To just you can definitely have creatures that you will want to sack to get those abilities. That can be super fun. I would want to start with like indestructible or hexproof perhaps, so Rayami's harder to deal with. I think my only complaint about Rayami is why not an ooze? This card screams ooze. It's in the ooze colors. Oozes care about abilities of creatures from the graveyard with blood counters. I mean, you could name it any kind of counter you wanted.
Call a slime counter if you wanted, yeah.
And I don't know, like I don't like the idea of green vampires either. So like, I looked up Rayami. There's no Rayami in the lore that I could find. I didn't look too hard. I looked up the basic wiki, but so it's not like this was a green character that like had to be green. It's like, just make this an ooze. We love oozes.
I agree, Sean.
We don't need more vampires.
When you pointed this out to me, I like because like let's be fair, let's like really be clear here. Like this is the flavor we're talking about here of this card.
Yes.
Because the abilities and everything are, I think, pretty solid, like pretty fun. I love it.
Yep.
I think it's great. Very cool. You can Voltron up this commander a little bit if you wanted. You could do some different things with it. I think that's really fun. But you're right, man. This should be an ooze because this is even an ability that already exists on an ooze, basically, right?
This is what oozes do.
A necrotic ooze, is that what it's called?
Yep. I mean, I don't know if it does it I think it just has abilities with cards in graveyards.
I think it just has those abilities. But
Mimeoplasm does this. It exiles cards.
That is an ooze ability. I'm so sorry, but that is an ooze ability.
It's 100% ooze.
Thing. And a green vampire to me, like, where's Mark Rosewater on this?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he talks about creature types can kind of bleed through the color pie. It's not exactly as hard ruled and stuff, but like, I don't know, man. A green vampire? Come on.
But we also know that Mark Rosewater has gone on record to say he loves oozes. So like the fact that like
Mark Pulls.
Merc pulls.
Murrow pulls. Other than that, though, I think Rayami is pretty cool.
I think it's going to be scary. I think you're going to do probably hexproof first, indestructible second, ideally, and then it's like, what are you going to do against this commander?
There's just so much. I mean, one thing is like if you're gonna try for auras with this, you got to watch out for that protection. That's the only thing else.
Oh yeah, you might give protection from your own auras.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. All right, let's take a look at what's next. Oh, this is one that's been a long time coming. People real excited about. We're finally getting a full-on Vollrath commander. Vollrath the Shapestealer. 2 black, green, blue, legendary shapeshifter. 7/5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and then you can pay 1 generic, and until your next turn, Vollrath becomes a copy of target creature with a counter on it, except it's a 7/5 and it has this ability.
Ooh.
Cool.
That's that right amount of power, like 7 power. That's the number.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential with this card. I think this is a very neat, very, very cool ability. I mean, you're going to want to build around counters a little bit, although you don't have to, right? Like, you definitely do not have to press hard on counters for this to work. For some reason, I can't help but feel it's a little underwhelming for some reason. But I actually think that this is, and I know some people out there are like, what are you talking about? This card looks awesome. But if you're like me and you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, sure. I bet you it's better than that. I have a feeling that even though I feel that way, I'm kind of like, I'm not really that excited about this ability. At the same time, I'm also like, but I bet you it's really good. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing to feel. It doesn't really make sense.
I think the coolest thing about Vollrath, the way I want to go for brewing up a deck around Vollrath, is to have a bunch of... So you have to have counters on things. Being able to put a -1/-1 means you get to do it at least once a turn. But I want my team to have counters. So I think I would lean towards like a counter deck of my own that I have positive counters on. And I would want... Because you can change on a whim. Like, it doesn't say...
Yep.
Like you don't have to, you still have the ability to keep changing. So I'm going to want creatures that have effects when they deal combat damage, and I want to have creatures that are unblockable. So I'll make him unblockable first, and then just before he hits, after it's too late to declare blockers, I'll turn him into something that says when he hits, deals, I don't know, discard cards equal to its power or something like that.
What's the Forbidden Ancient, right? It's the green card that gets counters on it whenever anyone like casts a spell, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple cards like that. Mana Gorger Hydra is another one.
Oh yeah, you could just leave it as one of those when
just
it's
leave
not.
it.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, and then just there you go. Like slide the counters over or whatever. Interesting stuff. Like yeah, Vollrath just getting all the counters on himself. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But this is until your next turn, right? Like I like that. That's interesting. Like you don't have to keep doing it every turn. You can let it sit. So
definitely,
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And in all of these cases, right, we found like so this one and Rayami, undeniably you could get to board states where this seems unstoppable, but it takes some work. Like you don't just get to do it automatically. Like you have to work for it, you have to brew around it, and your game plan is fairly straightforward. You can surprise them with Vollrath, I'm sure, but your opponents kind of know what you have to do to make it great, so they will be prepared to stop it.
I agree. I think that's the best. When the commander comes and says there's a lot of power here, you just have to unlock it, right? It's not simply running it and that's it. It's like, yeah, no, there's some building you have to do here, and if you can maximize it, you're going to have a great time with it.
So we got another legendary within the deck that is not sort of the top 3 Sultai. This one is just Golgari. It's Grizz Mold, the Dreadsower. 1 black-green, Troll Shaman, starts as a 3/3 with Trample. At the beginning of your end step, each player creates a 1/1 green plant creature token. Whenever a creature token dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Grizz Mold, the Dreadsower. Very interesting.
Yeah. Each player gets the plant token. I like that. That's a little bit different. When things, when tokens are dying, he's getting bigger. I like that.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, Grizz Mold, the design is nice because Grizz Mold has trample, so they can't chump it with those plants you've given them, unless no tokens die and then they get 3 plants. Then they just gang block it. But your tokens will be dying too, and you will be getting +1/+1s. I think Grizz Mold is an excellent lieutenant in a Gave deck. I think that's because you just kind of get double use out of those tokens.
Oh, this thing's gonna be huge in a Gave deck, right?
Yeah,
like those infinite sack engines, or you just make Grizz Mold as big as possible, and then just attack. Like, yeah, you can do that.
I want in the Grizz Mold deck. I'm not sure does Grizz Mold go better in the Slimefoot, or is Slimefoot better in the Grizz Mold deck?
I was just thinking that. I think they're probably, I think they are 2 slightly different decks, but they're fairly both those decks are pretty close to being. They're pretty similar decks, I think.
Should we just errata them to have partner to each other?
Oh, wow. Imagine. That's cool. Make it a Saproling plant deck. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I love it.
Okay, it's official. We've changed.
It's official. They have partner now.
Yeah.
I like this commander. I think it's a pretty slick, pretty simple design, but I think it's really great.
Yeah.
It's just something about loading up all your opponents with plant tokens that I'm just like, I'm sure there's other ways you can take advantage of that too, right? You can make that a negative for your opponents. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, things that penalize people for having creatures appear. Like every time a creature enters, something bad happens to them.
I'm sure there's something you could do with that.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so those are the new legendaries. So far so good, man. I think Sultai got some pretty strong ones. Like whether you want to go super narrow and you want to go, morph tribal, which is what the deck is, out of the box. But you can take it in some different directions. With Vollrath is a really cool ability, as we're saying, and Grizz Mold kind of doing some stuff here. So very cool so far.
Clark Grizz Mold.
The Grizz Mold family Christmas. He looks like a bit of a Christmas tree himself here, Grizz Mold. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got ornaments.
Yeah, he's pretty festive.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some of the other cards in the deck, though. We're going to take a look first here at Kadenazz Silencer. 1 in a blue. It's the 2/1 Naga Wizard. It's got Megamorph. and for 1 and a blue. And when it's turned face up, counter all abilities your opponents control. What do we feel about like abilities like this, where it's like counter all abilities? It's like I feel like I don't really get into situations very often where there are multiple abilities like on the stack. You know what I mean?
The only time I can think of that is in response to like a wrath. Okay, so I guess before the wrath resolves, I'll sack all of my creatures and I'll put all these sack triggers on the stack. But even still, that's tricky to navigate, because then you got to be like, so after you do that, I'm gonna unmorph this, and then it's like, well, I didn't think we had to observe priority. So like, if we do, then it's like, because the proper move then is to be like, oh, there's a wrath on the stack. Okay, I'll sack 1 creature to scry 1. And I will finish that trigger, and then with my next priority, do it again. So like, there should never be multiple abilities on the stack if you're playing the smart way, right?
Yeah. There's no real reason to let them all sit on the stack, right?
I guess this could be like if it's ability in response to ability in response to ability kind of deal. Like it gets all of those.
Yeah, you know what? I actually just you saying that made me think of a really good use for this. Whereas like if someone does like Rise of the Dark Realms or something, and there's like all of a sudden there's like 50 ETB triggers.
Oh,
all on the stack at the same time.
Yeah, okay. That's a great reason.
Yeah, that is a great reason. And there's some similar cards to that, like this thing of like, okay, well, me bringing this card back brings this card back from the graveyard, and it's going to also trigger this enchantment and then trigger this. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you got 4 triggers on the stack and they're all abilities. Like, nah, peace. Kadenazz Silencer.
I still like this card a lot because morphs, like this is just 1 and a blue to get that ability, basically. Mm-hmm. You cast it as a 2/2 for 3. Face down, and then eventually you're just going to nab some ability. There are very good abilities in Commander. You're going to be very happy to nab one.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I was like, when am I ever going to use this? To being like, this might be a nice little card to have in your back pocket there.
Yeah, 1 Gray Merchant hit is enough. Like if I can counter 1 Gray Merchant ETB, thank you.
That's pretty good. You're right. All right. Next.
Okay, next is a sudden substitute.
Quick question though about Kadenazz Silencer. Okay. Do you play this outside of a dedicated morph deck? Are you looking to put this in like controlled decks? I think so, right? Like
only I think so, because like we're seeing more and more cards that reference countering abilities and not just spells. Because so much of Commander is played on abilities. Like there's so many so you need to deal with it. So I think you should. I think it's a fine include, especially if you're already running like Stratus Dancer or other unmorph counterspell type of things, because then your opponents will always be guessing, because they're like, which one is that? If it's Kadenazz Silencer, I don't care so much, but if it's the one where you steal my spell, that sucks.
That's right, Kara Spell Snatcher.
Right. Yes.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, great. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Okay.
Yeah. Sudden Substitution. This is 2 blue for an instant with Split Second. We haven't seen that in a little while. Split Second means no one can react to it except by unmorphing morphs, because that doesn't use the stack. So I feel like that maybe put that in the flavor text of Split Second in the morph deck, like so that like players understand that. Anyway, exchange control of target non-creature spell and target creature. Then the spell's controller may choose new targets for it. So this is like one of those, like, I have your spell now, but the cost is I have to give you one of my creatures. And you can't put more things on the stack or kill the creature I'm trying to trade with you unless you have a morph that can kill on unmorphing. Then that will stop this.
Yeah, I'm not, maybe it is the way, I don't know. There's something, it's not, I think it's like the morph thing is a little bit different than that. I thought it was just like when you're unmorphing something, you can't you doing the unmorphing can't be responded to. That's how it's faster.
But I think it doesn't use the stack.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's just whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. You very well are probably right as well. At any rate, I like this card. This is cool. Like this gives us the opportunity of switching up a little token for some huge spell. Like, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I also like how like a lot of, if you're a mono blue deck that's all counter spells, you don't want this because you don't have creatures. But there's a
Right.
lot of blue decks that, maybe token decks that have blue support. This is fantastic in that. For 4 mana, take your best spell.
Someone tries to cast like an expropriate or like a
Mine
big
now.
planeswalker or something.
Mine now.
Right? Yeah,
Yes.
mine now. Thanks. Thanks. And
Yeah.
it can't be countered. It's not like they can counter this back.
Yes, because of split second. Because of split
Yeah.
second. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Very into this card. Love it. Lots of fun. It's a pure commander card.
Yeah.
Thought Sponge. This was Cassius Marsh's
Ooh.
thing, I think. Thought Sponge is 3 and a blue for a creature sponge. It's a 1/1 with flash, and it enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on equal to the greatest number of cards an opponent has drawn this turn. When Thought Sponge dies, draw cards equal to its power. So you flash it in. And if Sean just played like
Blue Sun Zenith.
yeah, let's say you did a big Blue Sun Zenith for 7, this guy gets 7 counters, and then if at some point it dies, I draw 8 cards because he'll have 7 counters and he's a 1/1. So there's a counter spell that does very similar thing where it's you counter the spell and it comes in with that many +1/+1 counters as equal to the CMC of the spell you counter.
Draining Whelk.
Draining Whelk, right. Strong card, very good card, because it counters,
Yeah.
Thought Sponge, I mean, I feel like you're going to be hanging on to this card for a long time and waiting for someone to do some big thing, and then how good is it if I'm sitting here waiting, and then you're like, well, I just want to get this card out of my hand, so I'll just do it now, and when this guy drew like 2 extra cards, so now he's he gets 3 counters, and I don't know, that's a 4/4 flash.
Yeah.
What I mean? I'm not wild about this card. I actually don't think it's that good.
I think it's too unreliable to depend on opponents drawing a bunch of cards. I think Nekusar wants this. Anyone who wheels a lot. If you're wheeling a lot, I think that's when you want Thought Sponge. But I gotta say, whenever I put together a deck with lots of wheels in it, that deck is strapped for card slots. I don't have room for a Thought Sponge because I want to put what's the 5 mana artifact that your opponents take a damage every time they draw a card? It's a crawler. It's got a little brain in a jar. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Whatever. Bomar Monk. That's what they're called on Star Wars. The brains with the spider legs. Yeah. Anyways, yes, exactly. Like you want stuff like that, and there's definitely like what, you're throwing a Thought Sponge in there? You're already drawing a ton of cards in those decks. Anyways.
If I can't afford a Chasm Skulker, maybe is Chasm Skulker in this deck though? Was Chasm Skulker in this set? I gotta look that up.
I'm looking. I do not see it. No, don't.
Okay,
see
they didn't reprint Chasm Skulker. Okay, so I mean, like, if you don't have one, this is a lot cheaper. I mean, I think.
Like,
I don't know.
I'm sure this will show up in some decks. I'm just not wild about it if you're like trying to use it for card draw or something. Like, it's got to be dedicated. Like you want to sacrifice this thing and I guess maybe recur it. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah.
Not wild. It's fine, but
I mean, it does draw you 3 cards if you put a Skull Clamp on it, and it's just 1/1.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best use for it.
Wait, 4. It draws you 4 because it dies as a 2/0.
That's true. Hey, we just found a really fun pair right here. Thought Sponge and Skull Clamp. Really great. It's clamps the thoughts out of the sponge.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's next?
Well, next week, so we're going into a black card here, Gift of Doom. It's an enchantment for 4 and a black. It's an aura. It says enchant creature. Enchanted creature has death touch and indestructible. That's a very good combination.
Sure, yeah.
Auras are always tricky because if they remove the creature before the aura lands. But once it lands, it's going to be tough to deal with to get that 2-for-1 out of you. But it has morph. And to unmorph it, you have to sacrifice another creature. And as it is turned face up, you may attach it to a creature. If you don't, it will go to the graveyard. So you should attach it to a creature. Yeah. So this is a fantastic, weird kind of combat trick. You drop it as a morph early on, and you just got to protect it somehow. But if anything endangers another creature, like a wrath of some kind, you could just sack one of the things that you don't care if it dies anyway, and give something you do care about indestructible. And Death Touch, by the way. This is also a fun surprise combat trick if someone decides to block and is like, well, are you going to block? Because everyone's thinking about what's that morph. I don't want to block that morph, so I'll block your 3/3 that's safe. It's like, no. The morph makes the 3/3 indestructible in Death Touch. Now you died.
And because of the like crazy weird morph rules of not using the stack and everything, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that like you can't respond to this flipping up and being on a creature.
Oh, that's right.
Because it also doesn't target. Like Gift of it's got that weird aura like rule in Magic where like if an aura just like enters through some other reason other than casting, it has to be attached to a creature, right? Like it's like
yeah.
Now this one specifically says May, so it's kind of different, but because it's a morph, it flips up and then goes like it's just attached on a creature, it doesn't target it.
Yeah.
So
neat.
Again, like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this just attaches and there's no way to respond.
I think you're right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's I mean, I think this card is good, but it's one of those cards that like they print in Commander sets a lot where I'm just like, man, this card's really fun and cool. I don't know what deck I'm ever going to put it in, but I like it.
I know. These are the cards that are so fun, but they never come to mind when you're brewing up decks, so it's easy to forget about them.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, I think there is room in certain decks for it. I guess it's like a one-time sack outlet, which is kind of like attractive, and anyways, it's you know what? It's good protection for commanders, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which we always like to have. So actually, yeah, there you go. There it is. Next we have Thieving Amalgam. It's 5 black for a 6/7. It's an ape snake. Love that combo. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library. So you get you get their top card of their library as a 2/2 creature face down. Whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I love the weird mishmash of text and rules on this card. I'm excited. The only thing is I'm like, why isn't this itself a morph? I don't know. It doesn't have to be, of course. It's fine. But because 7 mana is a lot, that's why I'm saying that. But otherwise, like, this is a very cool card. I'm very excited to have this in a morph deck. I even am very excited to have this in any deck. I love the idea of manifesting the top of my opponent's library. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and because you can unmorph them for their casting cost or flip them up if you can make that kind of mana. So if you have like different colored mana rocks and things like that, rocks that can create any colored mana, this is very cool. Even if you never hit a creature, that's just like free tokens every time around the table.
And it's like they're not like they're incentivized to not. Mind you, it's only 2 life. It's not that bad, but like they're incentivized to not kill their own creatures a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it's true. You get enough of these and it's like, oh no, we can't cast a board wipe or we'll all take like 30 damage.
Harry's excited about Thieving Amalgam. He thinks it's fun.
Oh, is he?
And he thinks it's fun to have an ape snake. He's excited. What's next?
Next up is, let's see here. We've got Apex Atlasaur. This is a 7 green.
Altasaur.
Oh yeah.
You're right. It's an L. Yeah.
7 green dinosaur 10/10. When Apex Altasaur enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. That's very expensive for a card, but a 10/10 is big, will win most fights. And it also has Enrage. Whenever it's dealt damage, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. The neat thing is, Enrage, like fighting triggers Enrage. So the first fight will trigger Enrage, and you can fight again, and that fight will trigger Enrage. So you can keep fighting until you kill 9 power worth of opposing creatures. Oh, wow. Then you have to stop, otherwise it will die. Unless you give it indestructible somehow, then it just fights everything.
I did not even realize that. That is wild.
Chain
fighter. So it's like 9 mana, and you'll like maybe wipe someone's board, maybe?
I mean, you'll kill a lot.
Yeah, depends on how big they are, but yes.
You got to end with their 0-4 wall. That's when it stops.
Yeah, that's right. You can stop if there's an 0-4. This is cool design. I mean, throw this in your dinosaur deck, obviously, right? Like
obviously,
this is cool.
Yeah,
I'm into it. That's fun.
Yeah.
next we have Road of Return. It's the green sorcery that says choose one, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or put your commander into your hand from the command zone, and it has entwined for 2, so you can pay 2 plus the casting cost, so 4 in total for both. They're really messing with a lot of the like put a commander into the command zone, put like target players' commanders into the command zone. There's a couple of different ones, as you'll see when we get to them. But Road of Return is the first one, and it's good because it prevents, like, basically what they almost all of them do is they really prevent people from locking down your commander with like some kind of aura or something like that, like a lignify or one of those things that turns it into like a land or something, right?
Well,
like,
this one only gets it from the command zone, so that it won't get you out of a lignify here.
Yeah, no, that's what I've noticed that a lot of them are doing.
Yes, yes.
And you're right. This one is kind of the opposite. It's pulling it from your command zone, so not casting it. Right? So if you got like your commander's like got 8 extra attacks on it, you can just do Road of Return and get it into your hand.
I mean, you're paying 2 extra for it, which is essentially the first tax.
Yeah.
Right? So you're it's kind of like pretty. I think that green should have this ability more. This should be a green commander ability, because green is about ramping and like getting creatures out there. And if your commander's a creature, then you should be able to get it a little easier sometimes.
I mean, I would argue just green being the ramp color alone means that it already does get it easier, don't you think? Like
that is true by the fact that it has more mana. But I like this a lot.
I like the card a lot too. And again, it's going to be one of these things where I'm just like, I like it. I like this card. I like the design. I like the utility. I'm just wondering, what am I gonna put? Like, what deck do I want this in? What deck am I like? Is it a really expensive commander? Is it something where I'm looking to sacrifice my commander, of which I'm not really sure what deck that is? I don't really have a deck like that, but
I think this goes in like Angry Omnath or Borborygmos Enraged, like commanders that are already 6 or 7, where it's like you can't afford your third tax really. So it's like, well, this is, you get it taxed twice, and then it gets more expensive.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I like that. Now, is that worth a card? Is that worth a card in our deck? Is that ability going to be worth a card? Now, I realize that also it has this other ability, but now we're talking 4 mana, for these 2 abilities. Like, that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, is this worth a card? Is this worth slot in our deck? I'm not sure.
I don't know. There was that card they made last year where if you did combat damage with it, you got to move your commander back from your command zone or something like that to your hand. Remember that one? It was like an artifact creature.
Oh.
And if it did...
I already forgot about that card.
Yeah, I mean, that one, it just seemed like too much work to make that... And it was repeatable. This one's not repeatable, save for recurring or sorceries somehow. Yeah, is it worth a card? That's so hard. I don't know. I don't know.
That's why ultimately it's not jumping out at me. But it is a cool ability, like, no question.
Yeah. Next up is a very cool artifact, Pendant of Prosperity. 3 for an artifact. Pendant of Prosperity enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. Okay. 2, tap. Draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Pendant of Prosperity's owner draws a card. Then that player may put a land card from their hand on the battlefield. So basically you give this to someone for 3. And then every time they use it, you also use it. Only you don't pay for it. So obviously the correct move is to never use it.
Yeah, make a person burn a card and pay 3 mana for nothing.
However, if you give that to the Boros player, how will they resist using this?
Yeah. Give this to the mono red. Give this to the mono white. Give this, give this to anything that's stuck on lands. Give it to anyone who needs to draw a card. Like, it's gonna be tough to resist. We all know that, the tempt cycle, you're not supposed to just say no. Just say no to tempts. Just say no to Pendant of Prosperity. But there's always someone who's gonna do it.
I like it. I
know, me too. I love these types of cards. I love the decks that, specifically play on these abilities and stuff, giving away stuff. And yeah, Harry likes them too. So I love the card, and like I do see the deck that this would go in. I think that yeah.
This is great for Zedru because you're going to get a card
Yeah.
off of it every turn anyway. So now your opponent's like, well, I don't want it. Like, you're just getting one anyway. I might as well at least also get one out of it. It's like, now I get two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I still think that like just don't do it. But in a pinch, you can use it in a pinch, right?
There's also
It's
a
fun.
way, like if I think Red has who can trade artifacts? Like if you can give this to someone else and then trade it back for like a servo token or something, and now you're just paying 2 to draw a card, putting a land player, and then the owner, which is me, also draws a card and puts a land in. So you're
Like you
paying
get it
2
back?
to. So if you can somehow trade for it back, then you're paying 2 to draw 2 and put 2 lands out.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely like a blue thing, and maybe even there's some red.
Or there's that red offering, or does that just give a card, or do you trade a card?
I think red gives. I know a lot of the red
doesn't
cards
trade.
give. I think
Okay.
blue is mostly the trading thing.
Ooh, that's what I want to do. I want to trade. I want to get this back from someone.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. We like Pendant of Prosperity.
Yeah.
Next is Scroll of Fate. It's 3 mana for an artifact. You tap, manifest a card from your hand. The only thing I can think of that's interesting to say about this is that it happens at instant speed, and if you are willing to like you can basically manifest it and then flip it over, right? Like,
yes.
So you can. This is putting a card into play at instant speed. This is putting a creature into play at instant speed, and like if in a pinch, if you just need a creature down a block or something, it can be any card in your hand. Doesn't matter. It can be a land or something. So like, I think that's pretty good. Like, I think it's better than like, well, not always better because like, again, it might be really expensive. You're not cheating any mana costs here, but like, that's pretty sweet. Being able to instant speed down a creature or something whenever you need it. It's not like it's not game breaking amazing or anything, but like, it's pretty good.
And if you brewed up a deck that isn't heavily ETB, because you lose the ETB if you do that.
Yeah.
But if your deck isn't heavy ETB, yeah, if it costs me 5 mana for my creature, it still costs me 5, but I get to do it at any time during anyone's turn.
I also definitely thought manifest, like the ability alone, just like the definition of it was from the top of a library. So
yeah.
I'm surprised to see it say manifest a card from your hand. So
that is weird.
Yeah, it's like manifest, morph. I guess morph is the ability. Manifest is a different ability. I don't know. Anyways, Scroll of Fate is cool. I don't think you're going to play it too often outside of a morph-based deck, but I think you will see it occasionally pop up as like a way to flash creatures in.
Yeah.
What's next?
Ooh, we've got a Leadership Vacuum. 2 and a blue for an instant. Target player returns each commander they control from the battlefield to the command zone. Draw a card. This is what you're referring to, getting around like Lignify. This gets around hexproof commanders because it's the target the player, not their commander. Man, this is a cool ability. I'm glad they're playing around with this, but this does not bode well for Voltron players out there. Because it does not matter how much equipment you put on or how much you protect your commander, it's gone.
Is that Ural the Miststalker in the picture?
Oh, maybe. That would be perfect because it's the only way to get him back.
Right?
I think it
looks like him, doesn't it?
Yes.
I'm gonna look. I gotta have a look to see if that's our boy Ural.
Yeah,
it is
for sure. Ural.
That's
Genius.
him. Yeah.
Genius.
With because that's the thing, right? Ural is so strong because he has hexproof and just gets aura'd up. I love Leadership Vacuum. I think it's important to have a tool against hexproof commanders because that's like that was a big thing where like for the tuck rule, right? It's like, hey, like we need to be able to deal with some commanders permanently because they're so difficult to deal with. Well, at least now we have this way of like, okay, let's deal with, and it's not permanent obviously, but it's a new way to deal with a commander, even if it only is one time. This also has added abilities of like, if someone steals your commander, you can kind of get it back this way.
Yeah.
Especially if they own multiple commanders, like if their whole thing is that they steal legendaries, which we all know that is a deck. I like Leadership Vacuum, and I think this is going to be a meta dependent card. I think you're going to definitely know when you want this card. If you have the Voltron commanders or if you have a person who's stealing stuff, Leadership Vacuum is going to be a good card to include.
Yeah.
It draws a card too, right? So it replaces itself. So I'd like that even more.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
A few more new cards for the deck. This is Mire in Misery. It's 1 black for a sorcery. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or enchantment. Black has a ton of cards that make people sack a creature. That in itself, in Commander, is usually very underpowered because, I mean, against some decks that does a lot, but against too many decks, they can throw away just like creatures that have already gotten their value or whatnot. It is interesting that it says or enchantment. Black is notorious for not being able to deal with enchantment. So if they have no creatures and an enchantment, you get that enchantment, which is pretty cool. But I can't imagine many boards where you have a high-profile enchantment and no creatures. That's a very tall order.
Yeah, maybe some blue decks, maybe some control decks, but in which case this card can be good. But I don't see, like, outside of like mono black or Rakdos, I don't see people running this card very often.
Okay.
Next is Voice of Many, which is one of our preview cards. You can check out our deep thoughts on this one right here on our YouTube channel. We went into detail about Voice of Many. It enters the battlefield. You draw a card for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than you. Basically, we talked about, like, in an ETB style deck, this can be pretty good. In a token deck, obviously, you're going to want this. Otherwise, we weren't like super jazzed about it, but there is some real upside here. So definitely not a bad card, and you're gonna like elf decks, ETB type stuff like Rune maybe would even like this card. So yeah.
And lastly, this card appears in all of the decks. I guess we'll just mention it in future ones, but
yeah, I mean, like I just figured we'd get it out of the way here in this one, and then not really
good.
Talk about it for the next ones.
Yeah, Scare Tiller. It's a 4-mana artifact creature scarecrow. It's a 1/4, and whenever it becomes tapped, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, and you may return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I mean, you're talking Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, any type of fetch. Scare Tiller becomes amazing, and there are many, many tools that we have access to tap and untap creatures that does not involve getting them into combat. My favorite way is vehicles, right? I love to put Cultivator's Caravan, which is crew 3, so you need another buddy with the Scare Tiller, but like getting back your Terramorphic every turn is pretty appealing.
Yeah, pretty good. I predict that this card, will be very good in decks that have trouble ramping, because getting, like you said, getting those fetch lands, or like even just an Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic, you're going to be so happy to do that.
Yeah.
White is going to be so happy to do that. Anything with white in it's going to be happy to do that.
Yeah.
And all Scare Tiller needs to do is become tapped. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy. I think this card's pretty good. 4 mana, it's kind of a lot, but I actually think this ability is very good, very useful.
Yeah, it's tough on a 1/4 because it's like, man, at that stage in the game, it's not going to get into combat very easily. You do need other backups to help it work.
Yeah. So that does it for the Sultai deck. Right here on YouTube, you can find all the rest of them. So just click over. It'll be at the end of this video. But thanks for watching our Faceless Menace review. And
let us know your favorite card of the deck in the comments.
That's right. What's your favorite commander? And I want to know what your favorite card is. Those are the two things. Please tell us. Okay.
Listeners, please.
We'll see you guys on the other videos. Peace.
Bye. Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commanders Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.